why we should think about our lives very differently. Most people are going through their lives right now not realizing that they're going to live a lot longer than they think. A lot longer. We look at our grandparents and sometimes our parents and think, okay, that's how long we're going to live. But the truth is that our generations, and even more so our children's generation, and we can talk about our grandkids, what's going to happen is that we're going to continue to live longer and longer. But the real question, what's most important to me, is are we going to live healthier? Because there's no point in keeping the body alive, which is what modern quote-unquote medicine is doing, if it's going to keep our brains the same age, right? And that's what we've been doing. We haven't been very good at keeping our brains young. So my goal is really to, first of all, understand why do we age? How do we slow it down? Is it reversible? And can we keep the whole body younger? And I believe we can. And that's what I'm going to tell you about tonight. But I started off this project when I was 4 years old. I know it's hard to believe, but you'll read about the story that my grandmother who raised me, in part, she was a very young grandmother. She had my father, she gave birth to my father when she was 15. So to me, she wasn't a grandmother, she was more like a friend. And she wasn't just young, she wasn't just in her 40s when I was a kid, but she was young at heart. She was so immature and irresponsible, it was excellent. And my mother really didn't appreciate that at all. But I was raised essentially by my grandmother who taught me a few things in life, which is the reason I'm here today talking to you. The first was, adults screw up everything. And she had lived through World War II and the aftermath, and she thought, wow, humans really can do a lot of bad things. So she said to, little 4-year-old David, you have to do really good things and show humanity the best that they can be. Stay young. 6 is the youngest, the best age. So if you ask my wife, I'm definitely still a kid in my mind. She's the one that makes sure everything runs on time and the kids actually get to school. But it's been great for my career because I'm a scientist, and scientists succeed typically if they stay young. And why is that helpful? Well, it's not the immaturity and the irresponsibility that's helpful. It's the curiosity, the wonder of life. And I've managed to keep that. And I struggle to keep it because the world is a scary and sad place many times. But what I try to do, the secret of my success as a scientist, to share that with you, is the following. I try to imagine what life would look like to an alien. What do I mean by that? I mean that if we can get rid of every preconceived idea, we've never watched a movie, we've never delved into politics, there's no tradition, and we just looked at humanity from above and said, how do they score? Are we a 1 out of 5 or are they a 5 out of 5? I think we're kind of a 2 out of 5 at this point, and we can do a lot better. And one of the things that aliens would do when they looked at us, they would say, well, great, they figured out pi, the numeral pi to 1,000,000 decimal places, great, get a gold star for that. They figured out E equals mc squared, that's pretty good, kind of advancing. What else would be good? Well, they've traveled to a rock that's floating around their planet, good stuff, guys. But they'd say, well, what about medicine? And we'd say, well, we're tackling this heart disease, it's really bad, and then there's diabetes, we've got to solve that. And they'd say, that's great, but do you know what causes all those things? We'd say, not sure what. And they'd say, aging. Aging is your problem. And we would, right now in our civilization, we'd say, aging? Isn't that just natural? Shouldn't we just deal with that? And they said, the aliens would say, guys and ladies, aging is just as natural as cancer and heart disease and Alzheimer's. Why are you focusing on all those things that kill you while ignoring all the things that cause those things in the first place? So my argument is, why are we focusing on what causes us to fall off the cliff without even talking about, let alone working on in a big way, what drives us to that edge of the cliff in the first place? And so my mother, she died a few years ago from lung cancer, and I'll be the first person to say lung cancer and cancer in general is a great pursuit to solve cancer. But we spend, I think it's about $5 billion a year just on research alone on cancer. But cancer is only part of the story. If you smoke, like my mother did, your chance of getting cancer, lung cancer, goes up by about 5-fold, which is really bad, right? So we try not to smoke. And there's big government campaigns to try and prevent it. But if you go from 20 to 70, your chances of getting lung cancer go up by 500-fold, and nobody's even talking about it. So what's the major killer? It's aging. So my goal with my research at Harvard Medical School, which I've been doing at Harvard for 20 years and 5 years over the road at MIT, is to figure out, why do we age? I mean, does anyone have a clue why we age? Does anyone really, and do any of you think about it? Probably not, right? Because even doctors who treat aging, the gerontologists, they don't think about it either. It's as though we've evolved to not even think about it. And I think the reason is that it's too painful to think about mortality. I mean, let's do a little experiment. And I've never done this before. This is off the cuff. Think about your parents. If they're still alive, that's great. If they're not, imagine that they're still with you. What would you give for an extra month with them, to be able to talk to them, spend time with them, show them what you've been doing, spend time with the grandkids? Those are the important things in life. And we don't even think about our own mortality typically. It's really quite painful, right? To think that one day, literally, none of this will be around for us and we'll be out of here. That's scary stuff, right? You got the whole what about 100 religions to help us with that. But my book is not a negative message. It's not, oh, let's all freak out because we're going to die. It's more, let's focus on what's going wrong during aging and try and keep all of us, our parents, ourselves, healthier until 90 or 100 or beyond. It's about extending health span so that you don't have to be sick when you're 70 or 80. And I'll show you that it's very possible with things that we can do today with our lives. And I'm quite happy that I heard some of the right things tonight about what you should be doing. The other great message and inspiring fact is that only 20% of your lifespan and health in old age, 20% is genetic. And we know that because we've studied twins. And twins, there's always a good twin and a bad twin, right? And the bad twin who goes in the sun, who smokes, who doesn't exercise, who eats a lot of food, that twin will age rapidly. Not just be sick, but literally you can measure aging now. I'll tell you about the clock in our bodies. So we know that 80% of our existence and our health is in our own hands. That's great. That's really my message. And one of the reasons I wrote the book is that don't be afraid of aging. Take action, because you really can have a big impact on your own life. And spread the word, because there's really a lot we can do, fairly simple things to live longer and healthier.